What's up, weirdo? Shade Tree Surgeon here, and today we're getting topical, and we're going to talk about the subject that's on everybody's lips, all the way from President Trump down to Todd the cashier at the Quickie Mart, and that's fake news. But we're not just going to talk about fake news, I'm going to tell you how you can fight back. But first, let's do a little breakdown on what fake news actually is, because I feel like there's a lot of confusion in that regard. Now, when I say fake news, I don't just mean bald-faced lies like that article your mama sent you about them kids who caught gay after sharing marijuana needles. I'm really talking about the much more insidious practice of cherry-picking facts and then presenting them out of context in order to create a false and sensationalistic narrative, much like the Wall Street Journal and many other publications recently did when they tried to paint PewDiePie as a Nazi. Now, while inaccurate stories just for the sake of sensationalism have been around since the very first newspaper was ever sold, up until recently, journalistic integrity actually meant something. Journalists who reported inaccurately were looked upon as hacks and quickly ostracized from the journalistic community. You know, writers and reporters took real pride in delivering honest facts to their readers. And fake news, sensationalism, distorting the truth and stretching the facts, that was left to hack writers who wrote for tabloids and gossip rags. The kind of people who wrote about how Elvis had been abducted by aliens and how Batboy was secretly living in the White House. You know, that was fake news. But, you know, these days you can't hardly tell the difference between that and what we see presented as real news. This sensationalistic tabloid mentality has spread like a cancer through what used to be credible news sources. Journalistic integrity means very little these days, so what the fuck happened? Well, here on YouTube, we can definitely take our fair share of the blame. You know, our clickbait title and thumbnail mentality is lifted directly from supermarket tabloids. You see, gossip magazines and tabloids would just plaster the most ridiculous, exaggerated title and picture on the cover of their magazines. You know, whatever it took to catch your eye and get you to make that impulse purchase while you're waiting in line with your groceries. The actual content, the story, that was all secondary. It almost didn't even matter. The only thing that matters is getting the customer to make the actual purchase. People could be disappointed again and again by the actual story they found behind the cover, but it didn't matter. These guys had that formula down. They knew how to get someone to buy the magazine in the first place, and that's all that matters, the sale. And the same concept, the same strategy is so prevalent on YouTube today for a very simple reason, because after all these years, it still works. I mean, it fucking works like a charm. In so many instances on YouTube, the content is completely secondary to the title and the thumbnail, you know? Just like those gossip magazines, all that matters is the sale. All that matters is getting somebody to click on your video. If you can just get the clicks, everything else is gravy. You know, by its very design, that's a system that, you know, punishes integrity and rewards sensationalism. And now that mainstream news and also mainstream news consumers have almost completely moved into the online arena, they had to adapt or perish. And trust me, this was not an easy transition for most of them. Yeah, they struggled to make themselves relevant in an arena where people pick their stories from Facebook instead of from the newspaper or the television. And as more and more consumers moved online, they eventually just started doing what works. And what works is clickbait. Now, don't get me twisted. I'm not one of those dudes who just sort of gestures at the ceiling fan when referring to the media as some sort of overarching boogeyman. I truly believe that a 100% free and unfettered press is one of the cornerstones of this nation. But the good guys, the journalists with integrities, those guys who are out there shedding light on shady people and turning over rocks and exposing the truth to the masses, those guys are competing in the same arena as all these fucking hacks, and they don't have any kind of advantage. Guess what? They're all selling their stuff in the same place now. They're all selling their stuff in the supermarket checkout lane that we call Facebook, and people click on what's shiny and interesting and distracting. And they leave the real stuff, the hard stuff, the stuff that isn't always easy to hear. They leave that behind. So who's to blame for this? Is it the media outlets themselves? I mean, sort of, but you know, they're only selling what we're willing to buy. Is it the writer's fault? Sometimes. But you know what? Bad writers and bad journalists will always exist. The problem starts when we reward them for being bad. So at the end of the day, is it just the consumer's fault? I mean, after all, if we look at all the choices in front of us and we consistently choose garbage, well, guess what, motherfucker? They're going to start putting more garbage on the menu. But even so, I don't think you can peg 100% of the blame on the public at large. This is everyone's fault. This is nobody's fault. It just is. So what do we do? Is it just broken beyond repair? Is there no hope? I don't think so. I think we can come back from this, and I think that the solution is hiding right here on YouTube. You see, people have been able to get away with garbage content here on YouTube for a long time, but I'll tell you what, it seems like the winds of change are in the air.
Hey, that's pretty good.
YouTube has become self-aware enough to sort of police itself. Sure, ridiculous trends pop up, like the 1,000-degree knife challenge, for instance, and they're perpetuated by people who are just hungry for a cash grab, but...
Just be glad this is the ALS challenge.
That's what happens when you play too much. But you know what? They're soon struck down. Once the community of YouTubers at large really catches wind of these cancerous trends starting to spread through the community, well, at that point, those trends and the people who continue to employ those trends are usually mocked to the point of becoming irrelevant. Death by mocking. It's certainly not a pretty way to go, but it's very effective, and it's actually kind of fun to watch. I imagine it's about the same level of entertainment somebody from the Old West got watching a horse thief get hung in the town square. Except now people are getting strung up for faking social experiments and, still using Harambe memes. I'm certainly not calling it perfect, but there's a sort of balance on YouTube. A balance that you really wouldn't expect from a place where basically anybody can upload a video of them doing or saying whatever they want. On paper, a place like that should be like total butt-fucking anarchy, and it sort of is, but there's still a bit of order to it. Because while you can say or do almost anything you want on a video on YouTube, you gotta remember, you're uploading this content into a public forum. A public forum that is incredibly harshly peer-reviewed. So yeah, you can get away with bogus content for a while. Hell, it might even take you far. But if you keep pumping out bullshit, it's eventually gonna catch up to you. We're all drawing water from the same well, and if you try to put poison in that well, you best believe your ass is getting strung up. And that's the way it should be. There are really no rules here, except for the ones that we demand as a community. And as long as there are always people who are brave enough to stand up and call out the hypocrites, the frauds, and the liars, then that balance will continue to persist here on YouTube. And I encourage all of you to do that exact thing. You know what? When you smell something rotten, speak up. The fact that we can all do that on here, the fact that in this forum we all have a voice, that is so incredibly special. And this sort of peer-reviewed system, I think that's what keeps YouTube alive. So, never stop calling out bullshit when you see it, even if it's from me, especially if it's from me. I'll appreciate it, trust me. And journalism used to have that same sort of peer-reviewed standard of ethics. Getting the facts right and presenting a clear, unbiased view on a situation, that used to be important. That used to be held in high regard. Taking events out of context, shoddy research, the twisting of the truth, that would quickly get you ostracized from the community of journalists. There was a bond of trust between the press and the people, and journalists, they considered that bond to be sacred. Break that trust, you'd soon find yourself labeled a hack and out of a job. But that mentality is long gone, and more mainstream news outlets and the journalists who write for them, they kind of treat their audience like a worn-out crack whore who's willing to give you a tuggy just for shorts on a cigarette. I mean, you think YouTubers are bad when it comes to pandering for views and shares? We ain't got shit on mainstream news media. The Wall Street Journal would parade their mothers naked down Wall Street if they thought it'd sell a few more subscriptions to their paper. So who do you look to solve this problem? You certainly can't expect mainstream news media to just crack down on journalistic integrity. I mean, we're talking about massive corporations here, a lot of them publicly traded. They do what sells. I mean, that's how capitalism works. As long as we continue buying their bullshit, well, guess what, motherfucker? They're certainly going to keep on selling it. YouTube's no different in that regard. It's a corporation, and it's here to make money. If all the people who tuned into YouTube only wanted to see 1,000-degree glowing knife videos, guess what? The only thing on YouTube you'd see is 1,000-degree glowing knife videos. And YouTube would be totally fine with it as long as it continued to make money. Hell, they changed their name to 1,000-degree glowing knife tube. Nothing but red hot knives cutting through random shit 24/7, 365, baby. But I don't think that we need to worry about turning into glowing knife tube anytime soon. The creators here on YouTube do a decent enough job of policing each other, and ultimately, I think that the main body of viewership on YouTube is a little too jaded and a little too skeptical to really buy anybody's bullshit for too terribly long. So the question is, how do we apply the same mentality to mainstream media and modern journalism? In my mind, it's easy. If I say some dumbass, off-the-wall, bogus shit here on YouTube, guess what? I'm probably going to get called out for it. And my face, because you're looking directly at my face here, is going to get plastered all over the internet and mocked to the point where people just don't trust me anymore. And you know what? When you put out your content in a public forum and you do some bogus shit, that's what should happen. Well, guess what? At the top of every bullshit fake news article that they're trying to pass off as gospel is the name and the picture of the motherfucker who wrote it. Why the fuck are you gonna waste your time bitching about some nameless, faceless, apathetic news corporation when the name, the email address, and the Twitter account of the motherfucker who wrote that bullshit article is staring you right in the face? Fucking take them to task. Shame them, ridicule them, mock them, make them irrelevant as a writer. You know why these guys continue getting away with writing fake news articles? Because there are zero fucking repercussions. There needs to be consequences and repercussions. Because you know what? When you're bad at your job, guess what? You get fucking fired from that job. We need to put bad journalists out of a job and continue putting them out of a job until good journalists take their place. So speak up, tweet at these guys, write them emails, say something, continue to put them out there for the hacks that they are. It's already starting to happen here on YouTube. Two of my favorite bigger YouTubers, Philip DeFranco and H3HE Productions, these are guys who have never been afraid to call somebody out on their bullshit or their hypocrisy. And you know, they've been going toe to toe with mainstream news media and mainstream news media journalists. And recently, I think they've taken a huge step in the right direction by publicly calling out the authors of these articles. We need more of that. We all need to do that, or else nothing's going to change. We need to call these people out and expose them for the hacks that they are. We need to cause them to lose their jobs because they are bad at their jobs. And people who are bad at their jobs should be fired. We all have a voice, and here on YouTube, we can make that voice heard. And we're all sick of this problem, so speak up and do something about it. And if this sounds like I'm advocating a witch hunt for news journalists who propagate fake news articles, that's because that's exactly what I'm advocating for. Here's the thing about witch hunts. Sometimes they turn out a fucking witch. Till next time, y'all.